The panel for today's session will actually start with Matt Browne from the Centre for American Progress. We'll then go on to Simon Sheik from GetUp and John Connor from the Climate Institute. All right, so I'll get started. We are talking about new progressive agendas today. And in order to prepare, I did a bit of a cursory survey of some friends and colleagues on what they thought should be at the top of the progressive agenda. What are these new progressive agendas? Plenty of issues raised, everything from mandatory detention to campaigning against government austerity measures to equal rights for zombies, from decriminalisation of marijuana to addressing recidivism. All entirely legitimate, except maybe the zombie one. Some issues, of course, are more pervasive. They're not specific and narrow. Examples, climate change or economic inequality. Those are the types of things that cannot be captured in a narrow way. They touch our society in many ways and at many points. However, even those issues, the scope for internal division is infinite. And of course, the question that was raised earlier today, should we even be trying to set these agendas? Is it the role of a forum such as this, a conference such as the one that we're attending, to decide what the agenda is and then go out there and conquer the community with our wisdom? I think the point was made very well this morning that that's not the type of format that we want if we want to make a lasting social contract with the community. I raise these issues to start with just to recognise that in a way the scope for disagreement and argument about what the new progressive agenda or agendas are is infinite in a way. The capacity for each of us to argue that something that we feel is particularly important is the most important issue and should be top of the agenda is unbounded. I just wanted to make the point that I think if we want to move forward to negotiate past these conflicts, we need to do two things. They are listen and show leadership. I'll start with listening. Listening sounds easy, but it's actually quite difficult. To actively listen without prejudgment is to admit that you don't have all the answers. This isn't defensive listening, this isn't passive listening, this isn't just listening sort of frustratingly waiting for your turn to talk. It's genuine listening. And when we talk about engaging with the community, often what we really mean is talking at the community. We need to think about new ways that we can listen. And it's not easy. It's not just sitting there silently. It actually is hard work. It actually requires resources. It actually requires organising. So who should we be listening to? Well, everyone in a way, so long as it's beyond the closed circles of people that we normally talk to. Of course, in the case of United Voice, it's our members. This is something that we have been trying to do at United Voice, to commit resources, to commit effort, energy and focus into this active listening. And of course, when we do listen, we realise that our members have powerful voices and amazing stories. I'll just quote one. Terence is an aged care worker from Western Australia, a United Voice member. He's talking on economic inequality and the fight for fair pay. The only luxury I have enjoyed this year is managing to take my nephew to the football twice. I would love to go every week, but it's an expense I just can't afford. A little bit more money would make my life a bit calmer. I don't need to be a millionaire. I just want to be happy. I could maybe afford a fillet steak once a fortnight, rather than having to survive on chicken wings I buy for $3 a kilo. These aren't the voices that you hear in the media. They're not mainstream voices in political debate, and you certainly would be extremely unlikely to find them at the Sydney Law School on a Saturday afternoon. But those are the voices that when you commit the resources and when you do the organising properly, you can hear and you can give them the prominence that they deserve. And that's something that my union is certainly trying to do, and I know a lot of organisations in here are doing the same thing, and I hope in the question and answer and discussion section we can share some ideas and tease some of that out. The second thing I'll just mention is leadership. We've talked a bit about organising and about community organising today. I think it's important to recognise that those processes are not organic. People's voices are easily isolated, and it's hard for them to move people beyond those most proximate to them. Particularly this is the case with people who are disengaged from politics and distrustful, people like Terence. Leadership is needed to create urgency, to communicate an exciting vision, to build coalitions and to maintain momentum. Now this is not telling, it's showing. It's not taking a stand or just leading from the front or just planting a flag and dragging others with you. It's actually building relationships. It's not hierarchical leadership, it's relational. It's not command and control. It's actually being the hub in a spoked wheel. And of course, that's about empowering and training new leaders too. It's about giving responsibility and trust to those who have earned it. That's the type of leadership model we need if we're going to build these lasting coalitions that we've been talking about quite a lot today. So through listening, we can find areas of agreement, often between people whose positions we thought were intractable. The leadership then can build on those coalitions around common purpose, bring people together who once were at poles apart and now seem in furious agreement. So how do we do this? Where do we start? Where does this community organising come from? Well, I'll just finish off with a little bit of a defence of organised political models and institutions in Australia, like the union movement and the ALP. Now, yes, they're deeply flawed. They've got quite a lot of dust on them and in some places quite a lot of mould. There's a lot of reform and renewal that needs to be done of these institutions. But within them, they are the lessons, the values are there, the political organising models and skills are there. Or certainly, if not currently operating, the potential is there. We have a lot to learn from newer models of organising such as GetUp, and I know Simon's going to talk about their work, and others that exist in the community. But ultimately, a lot of the connections that are made through those models are not enough. The resources, energy and focus that come from the union movement, that come from the ALP when it's the type of party that we want it to be, not the type of party that sometimes it is, can build the lasting relationships that we need to make the type of big change we want to see in our community. Why the defence of organised political institutions? Well, I think that increasingly, and I think we all know this, young people are finding them less attractive. Not just young people, people like Terence. Terence is unlikely to have the assets to self-select as part of a nebulous social movement. He needs an organised institution like his union that will train him to be a leader, train him to join with others to have a collective voice. These models are about showing and not telling, but they do have the resources and focus to win. It starts with listening, as I've mentioned. It starts with listening to people like Terence with his concerns and his solutions, showing leadership then to build coalitions, to get those small wins, to maintain momentum, to build the connections we need between those smaller groups into a mass movement with a strength for some of the big struggles that we've been talking about today. Whenever I think about the big struggles we have, I'm always taken back to a conversation that I had with a woman in Tasmania in the context of the last state election. She said to me, oh look, I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I don't really think about voting. All I'm worried about right now is the fact that it's coming into winter and I have to go to bed at 8 p.m. every night. Not because I'm tired, not because I want to go to sleep, but because it's so cold and I don't have the money to pay for the electricity to keep the heating going, so I just have to go to bed because that's the only thing I can do. To try and deal with some of the struggles that people like that are having, we need to listen to their stories and show leadership to build coalitions between this woman who doesn't see politics as the answer to her solutions. So from the sublime, I'll just finish with a practical suggestion. Have everyone in the room in the next week try and have one conversation with someone outside your normal circles about joining their union, or even, if you're up for a bit of a challenge for those in New South Wales, about joining the ALP. It's not going to be a particularly easy conversation. Think about a neighbour. Think about a family relative who's not engaged in politics, or a work colleague. To have a conversation with someone like that and ask them to become an activist, to join their union or to join the Labor Party and join with us in building a progressive Australia, you're going to need to really listen to what it is that's going to get them to move. And you're going to need to show some leadership on how being part of a broader coalition, whether it's through the Labor Party or through the union, is the means that they can pursue to have some change over the things that are concerning them. So that's my practical challenge to everyone. Go and have that conversation and see how you go. And with that, I'll finish and we'll throw to Matt.